And we are live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Global Citizens. My name is Calvin. I'm the show's creator and host. Now, there is a phrase that says that the first impression when you meet somebody is the first 5 seconds that you meet them. But if the first 5 seconds is how you assume Casey is, you are definitely in the wrong place because she is such an amazing woman that when I was looking through what she was doing, I was like, wow, that was the only thing I can say about that. So hi Casey, welcome to Global Citizens. How are you today?
I'm doing awesome. I just finished my workout, so it's like
all right.
Things are moving.
Fantastic. Okay. So Casey, maybe you want to share a little bit more of yourself. You are the founding director of Two Lanes, yeah? A digital consultancy and digital marketing. And one more thing that she's really cool, she's actually the first female that trend on Tenor. She got a first 1 million view in a day for a brand GIF. So maybe Casey, am I sharing enough yet about yourself, or maybe there's a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, you covered it. No, so I American living in Singapore. I've been in Singapore for 9 years. Prior to that, I was in China and Bermuda. I also did a stint in Brazil. So kind of like a global citizen. I had launched my agency, digital marketing agency. I also do quite a bit of consulting, and because I was freelancing and found that I was getting bigger projects and I had to outsource some of the work. So I decided to make it a real deal thing, and decided to focus on the areas where a lot of marketers don't focus on, like using GIFs, using mobile stickers. Also, once Facebook launched out their AR platform, I dug into it. I have a little bit of coding background, so when I found that, that was just amazing. Since then, gone on to lose awards. So I'm an award-losing agency. Yeah, so been nominated but have not won. We're going up against like the big guys. We are a partner of Facebook. In fact, I've been on a couple of stages that Facebook brings me on. I'm heading to India tomorrow to go to Facebook India. And then when I get back, I'm speaking at Facebook here in Singapore on next Tuesday. So I'm really excited and honored that they have chosen me and my agency to represent them and share a little bit more about the capabilities of Facebook for small businesses, but also like the larger brands that we work with too.
And is it true that you are also a DJ?
Retired, but yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I definitely would love to go. I will definitely go into deeper a bit more on your area of work. Yeah. So my first is of course cultural differences. So for those of you who just tuned in for the show for the very first time, Global Citizens is a show whereby I hosted DCK, CCK, digital nomads or global nomads, how you want to call them, and of course expatriates. The reason being is that when you come into a new country for a holiday, of course, you're just there for a holiday. You don't really fully have to immerse the entire thing. You don't see the positive and the negative side. I mean, you're there for a holiday, right? But when you are there to work, when you're there to set up a business like what Casey is doing here, you definitely have to learn the hooks, crooks, and of course, there's also stuff that you need to be sensitive about, and also the cultural differences, because not how when you started the first time does not mean it will be the same when you come into a new country. Yeah. Okay. So Casey, you are from Wisconsin, right? Just to double confirm that.
Yes.
Okay. So there's the few things I know about Wisconsin is you have 3 sports teams. Your NFL team, the Green Bay Packers, has the highest number of Super Bowl. The other two, Milwaukee Bucks, which is your basketball team, won an NBA title in 1971, and there's another one, which is your baseball team, is the Milwaukee Brewers. And along with that, I only know that Wisconsin is the dairy capital of the United States, and it has the highest numbers of German and Scandinavian immigrants from the United States. Yeah, maybe you can share a little bit more about your hometown, if it's okay with that.
Oh, I guess, yeah. Well, you kind of covered all the bases there.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, pretty much. So I actually grew up in Kenosha, which is in between Milwaukee and Chicago. It actually has like a very large Italian community. As mentioned, I am of German descent on my paternal and maternal sides. And I don't know exactly when my bloodline came to America, but my family comes, my paternal family comes from an automotive background. So my father was a race car driver. He worked in automotive. My brother has an auto body shop, works in automotive. And then from my mother's side, my uncles and my grandfather, like they're all truckers, and my cousin owns a large trucking company in Wisconsin. So the large commercial industry is definitely dairy and farming. But lately there's been an uptake in innovative companies coming out of there. So GE is one of the largest electricity companies that comes out of there. They do a lot of innovation with IoT, and Harley Davidson is from Wisconsin.
Oh yeah.
A lot of beers from Wisconsin too.
I actually found an interesting fact that in Wisconsin, if you get a Bloody Mary, you can get a free beer after. Is that true?
Yeah, that's the chaser.
Holy cow.
Because it's too spicy. So
Wisconsin does beer right.
Yes, that's true.
So what makes you decide to go inside to the tech industry instead? Because from what I hear so far, from my research and from what your side is, a lot of stuff that the industry that excels more in Wisconsin is more towards the industrial or manufacturing side. So why you decided to dive into tech?
So when I was in China, I was actually a gymnastics coach. And I also worked in the entertainment business, so doing a lot of bookings for hip hop artists and hip hop acts and DJs around Asia and Australia. So this is kind of like the time that social media was coming around. I got really interested in that. So when I moved to Singapore, I was doing my own DJing, and I had my own website, and I wanted to understand how that worked. So kind of fell down the rabbit hole of teaching myself how to code late at night. And also with that, I also learned all the marketing. From there, I was accepted into a program from a woman at Facebook. She taught women how to code. So it was an 8-week program. So after I learned how to code, then I got really interested in working in technology, even though I was just kind of like freelancing, doing marketing. And then I worked at a virtual reality company for a while. So that really like put me knee deep into technology. And I'm still really interested in what technology can do. I just got back from Cambodia for a technology conference. And I think it's being in Asia is like an amazing place to be.
What was the biggest cultural difference though, culture shock when you first came to Singapore? So one of my previous guests, Mr. Ozzy, actually one of the biggest thing that he discovered is that when in Singapore, if you're in the hawker center, if you put a tissue, it doesn't mean that they are keeping the tissue for you. It's actually because their term is chop, which is they reserve the seat. So did you experience something like that, or do you have
all the time? I put my tissue down too. I think like one of the biggest cultural things actually came when I got married. So in like Western cultures, like people get married and they move into a house like on their own, and then they start their life. With me, it was a little bit different. It was move into the house of the husband with the family, with the grandparents. So that was like one of the biggest challenges or differences that I had to experience myself. But there's also like many different cultures within Singapore. So you have Indian culture. And then within the Indian culture, you have all the different little cultures. Then you have like the Chinese, you have like Cantonese, you have Malay, and then you have all the different Western cultures that are in here as well. So I would say it's a bit of a melting pot, but I definitely see the cultural shifts depending on the friends and the people that I'm hanging out with at that moment. And I think as somebody coming in from outside of Singapore, it might be a little bit confusing because there are different cultures here. However, when you step outside of Singapore, maybe you go to Malaysia, you could definitely see the difference in the culture. Or you go to Indonesia, you could definitely see the difference in the culture there.
And the headaches. I live in Singapore for 15 years, so the reverse culture is a lot of headaches. Okay. So, what was the biggest challenges though when you were so that was with interaction, yeah? Because now is because you are there as a career. So what was the biggest challenges with regards to interacting with the different races in Singapore on how you get your work done? It's because, like for example, like if you tell a Chinese to get a discount, they will never give you a discount. And I don't know, if you tell an Indian to come early, they will still be late. So yeah, and you can never get a fixed price with them. The reason being is that in Indian culture, as like in the wet market itself, there's no price tag. It's because you have to bargain for the price. So what was the biggest culture for your end?
I think when I'm working in like business from like person to person, this is it's a lot different depending on who you're talking to. Sure. For example, if I'm talking to a Singaporean, they definitely want to sit down and meet with you and talk to you. Whereas I can do deals across the ocean, like you and I are talking. This is how we close deals in a lot of like the Western culture or with Western. And I don't think that has anything to do with technology. I think it's like the Eastern culture. It's more when you are meeting somebody to do business, you're also doing business with that person. Correct. So it's a little bit it's less transactional in a sense. So
it's a lot more interaction, yeah.
Yeah, it's like they want to know who you are as a person, and really they want to become your friend. So people do business with their friends. So that's really what I interpret all those meetings as, is trying to facilitate a relationship. Whereas I can do a really quick deal with somebody in the States and I don't even need to know who they are. It's like, I have a service that can benefit you. And it's more like transactional in that sense.
Yeah, I experienced that plenty of times. It can be a bit of a headache.
Kind of, but then you might like come out with some really, really deeper connections. So
absolutely. And also it is something that can actually establish a long-term working relationship, because you don't want to just get a customer, you want to keep retaining the customer, right? So it's not like you want to have $1 million, you want to keep on. It's just like you want to have $1 million, you want to keep growing the money.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's a lot easier to sell to somebody once you've sold to them rather than keep on selling to new people the entire time.
That's good. Okay. So how do you see the growth of women pursuing entrepreneurship, especially in tech-related area? Because in the past, this area is definitely a male-dominated area. So now there are a lot of women that pursues tech industry. I actually have one within my contacts, Ms Lisa Klang. She's a wonderful woman. She is also actually pursuing tech. So what do you see the progress of it? How do you see women in entrepreneurship in this?
That's a really great question. I think more and more women are becoming educated on what's out there. So I've met so many entrepreneurs that have done amazing things without any technology behind it. So and once they become aware of what's out there to actually make products and services more efficient, better for the environment, that's when the magic starts to happen. So a lot of what is starting to happen is you're bringing people from non-technical backgrounds that have strong domain experience, and we're linking those up with people that have the strong technical background. And eventually we'll start to see like more powerful, impactful businesses coming out. And I think that's even more so in emerging markets, so places like Indonesia, Bangladesh, India. There's a lot of, I think women are really the underbelly of society. Once you're able to give them the tools and the know-how, then we'll be able to build really great companies that give back and solve real problems. Not saying that a new marketing technology is not going to solve a problem, but it's really an eye-opener. So for people that are like digital nomads, most of you have probably seen like a child begging on the street. You know, we see that everywhere we go when we travel. What we should be seeing in the next 5 to 10 years is these areas, with the help of female entrepreneurs and technology coming together to be able to solve these problems. You know, maybe the problem is that the mother doesn't have a job. Maybe the problem is that the father works as a farmer and he didn't make enough money in the last crop. Hopefully we'll be able to build like robust solutions around those problems so that we can get these children off the street and actually give them some food, healthy and nutritious food, so that we won't be seeing this in the future.
Okay. That's actually a really noble intention. Okay. So as both a female and as both as an entrepreneur who comes from outside of Singapore, have you ever experienced any kind of failure because of cultural differences or ethnics? Because I've actually recently interviewed Ms Avani Parek, who is actually working for Facebook. Mm-hmm. One of her difficulties was that when she first started is because she is somebody who is really friendly, she's very chatty, and as a result, when they're in a meeting, when she's trying to talk, and everybody was, okay, you are being a nuisance to us. So that was actually something that she needs to learn at that time in order to adjust how to actually gain respect, and of course how to settle her work. So with regards to that, I don't like to call it as a further failure. I like to call it as a favorite learning opportunity. Do you have any such thing for yourself for that, with regards to that?
God, I have a lot of like learning opportunities. I'm trying to think of one that actually goes along with culture. I guess like, so I used to work in a company with a lot of Filipinos, and it frustrated me quite a bit that whenever they had a problem, they would tell somebody else to tell somebody else to tell the person. And that was actually something part of their culture, instead of going direct to the person and saying like, hey, I don't like it when you do this. Can you do it this way? So for me, being who I am, I would rather to be very transparent with somebody. Correct. And when I did that to one of my coworkers, they got really, really upset and went to like my superior. Yeah. And that's how I had to learn, like, that's the way you need to communicate with them. So that was like a big, like, learning experience, and I didn't want to hurt anybody's feeling. I thought it was always better to just be like direct and open and honest with somebody, and be open to criticism and critiques as well. And I was like, hey, they really like me. They don't say anything to me. So I think that was like one of the biggest learning experiences that I had with a group of people from one nation that had that same culture, that was totally different to what I had experienced before.
Yeah, I kind of experienced that before. Here in Indonesia, there's a culture called ABS, Asal Bapak Senang, as long as the boss is happy. So as a result, if there's a problem, they will never report anything to the superior. They will just let it go as long as the boss is not pissed. So yeah, I kind of get that. I really, really understood. Okay. I want to dive in a little bit more with regards to tooling social. Yeah. So I think around a few months back, I actually have a friend who created a GIF that is based on his own company's logo. So I find that really interesting. Was that actually created by? Do you think you have a hands on that? Because he mentioned he created it in Singapore or something. And
Mhm.
second is that when you started, right, how would you approach the CEO or managing director on why they should use your service instead? Because when you are still new to the country, there's no way you already have the accreditation or even unless you have the connection for that to for them to immediately engage in your service. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are two different questions. So I'll go with the first ones with the GIFs.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've always been like interested in GIFs because I think they're hilarious and fun.
Yeah.
So I experimented with my own personal brand. I experimented with other people's brands, like my friends were doing stuff just because I wanted to learn a little bit more about Jiffy and Tenor and the nuances and the differences. And then I explored the power of SEO using GIFs. So that one is just like totally, completely insane. And I'm not going to share how, but if somebody really is interested in learning, they can reach out to me because this is one of the underlying reasons why I love GIFs so much in marketing. And then the second question about how do I approach people? I guess like just starting out.
Yep.
I had friends that were building companies and they needed a little bit of help. So I was like, okay, well, I can do this if you pay me this. So that was kind of like really the way going forward. And then once I was working with the virtual reality company, it was actually inside of a larger company. And then it had smaller companies within it. So this virtual reality was like an incubator inside of a larger company. And that was a way for me to meet people from different companies and also a larger multinational company. All which ended up becoming a client when I was a freelancer. So it's really tapping into communities that are already existing. So like co-working space, like right now I work from a co-working space. I'm too busy, so I don't go out and mingle with people. But going to events to meet people, I've met people that that I've given work to. I've met people that I pitch with because I do only certain things in marketing. I need somebody who can do really good design. So I've met like one of my partners at meetup groups. So when you can tap into other communities, that's where you can start either finding work or sharing work with other people.
So yeah, I actually so events, right? That is actually the most powerful tool. I actually went to at least 50 of them in December alone.
Oh my God.
Yeah, before I left Singapore to return to Indonesia, I met quite a number of connections there. In fact, one of the reasons to start this channel was because I used to work for a British. So if you have ever worked with them, you know that they have what people like to call a dry sense of humor. So you don't know whether they're insulting you, whether they're praising you, or whether they're firing your ass. So yeah, but the thing is that I don't have my employer was not a bad boss, as the way people like to put it, is because he's really enjoyable as a mentor and as a superior. However, it's because of his miscommunication, we lost quite a handful of deals, which actually, when I count back and I was contacted back by a lot of people from the networking event, at that time we started in October 15. Actually, they all got back to me in around February after Chinese New Year. So at least there are four of them who are actually interested in using the product, and we could have gotten like around $40,000 or something. But by then, it's because we already have a 3-month probation period, which ended. So I'm pretty much gone from that company by then. So yeah. So if you are an employer who is now going to expand to Singapore, please listen to Casey here. Understand that your guys are not slacking around. If they go to networking event, it's for your company's benefits. Okay.
Absolutely.
So throughout your time in Singapore, yeah, sorry, not only in Singapore, I mean, you were living in China also for several years, right?
Yeah, for
So
a couple of years. Yeah.
how has your perspective and mindset changed though after spending some time abroad? Like, is there something that you are better at saying yes to or saying no to? Because,
That's
yep,
an
sorry.
interesting question. I think being out here in Asia, I'm seeing a lot of the innovation and things moving really quickly, like the growth within Indonesia, growth within Malaysia, growth within Cambodia is exploding. And I think whenever I go, like I'm going back to America, I'm like, I feel like everything in America is going this way and everything like in Asia is going this way. So
I was actually about for my next question is actually I'm gonna ask you the progress of tech in Asia, but you're covering that already. So please.
yeah. So that's really been an eye opener. I've always traveled ever since I was really young, but actively like being it outside of my home country for more than 10 years, I can see the progress compared to what has been happening in the US. So from like technology standpoint, like just looking at what's been happening with China and how fast companies grow, like their goal is to hit like $1 billion US dollars in revenue in 5 years. And if they don't hit that, they're considered a failure. I'm
Absolutely.
like, that is just insane. $1 billion, like, and that's just like the norm.
I can't even imagine hitting $1 million at the moment.
Yeah, and every single day there's 10,000 ventures that are started. So 10,000 businesses that are started in China every single day. It's not that big in the rest of the world. So that just being around this area of exponential growth is pretty eye-opening. It's hard to keep up with what's happening in this country or the other country or that country, but I try to keep up.
All right. Huh. Wow. First time I hear that. Okay. Wow. So yeah, we Asians should be proud of that. Okay. This is actually my last question, and to answer this, I want you to imagine this if, let's say, when you are back in your teenage years again, or maybe in the earliest, maybe in the college years. Yeah. So, what three advices would you give to a college student that is now about to enter the real world? Because, well, let's face it, when we are still in school, we always have everything given to us. We have directive, we have guidelines, we have lessons. But when you are out of this comfort zone, then it's an entirely different ball game on its own. That's one. And also, is there any negative advice that you feel should be avoided when they are making decision?
Okay, so advice for people in college or maybe going into college is learn finance.
Okay, I missed that time.
Number one thing, learn finance. I didn't, so I kind of messed up my finances for a while. And especially if you want to be somebody that can travel the world, learn how finance works, learn how to invest your money. And if you want to go and spend money on experiences, that's great, but be able to find ways of generating income when you're out traveling. That is number one. Number two, start side projects. So yeah, going to school, you're like, I'm actually taking a couple of online courses because I'm interested in it, but I do prioritize my time and I still have side projects. Yes, I'm a business owner. Yes, I'm a mother, but I still have like side projects I work on. And being able to explore options when you're in school, like maybe you're interested in fashion design and you're going to school for something totally different. Why not just start like an e-commerce store? Like it's cheap. It's like you can get started with the e-commerce store for like $50. So being able to like explore your passions is really important, because your passion might even end up being your livelihood down the line. I think what I always thought was that I needed a degree to succeed, and a lot of people have shown that that's not true. That you don't necessarily need a degree. Some people need a degree just to make their parents happy, and that's cool. Go ahead, make them happy, but still study and learn all the things that you really want to do. You don't have to get a degree in what you want. You can still do what your parents want, and then go do whatever you want when you're done. Because I understand those nuances with family and why, especially like in Asia, people really want their kids to get a college degree.
Yeah, every single one of my guests that is of Asian descent, I will always put like in the promoting tagline is, not all of us have a degree, not all of us become lawyers, doctors, engineers.
Yeah. So if that is something that your parents are really pushing on you, and they just finish the degree, it's like 4 years, maybe you can get it done in 3. So you have your entire life. Like, I have reinvented who I am as a mid-30-year-old woman with 2 children. Like, I'm reinventing my entire existence based on what my passions are. So you don't have to have it figured out when you're in college, but just explore what you really want to. Maybe down the line. You don't have to figure it out when you're 20. You don't have to figure it out when you're 30. You should have it figured out when you're 37, though.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So guys, just maybe, the lesson from here that we can get here is, firstly, is you might not, because one skill doesn't mean, it's like maybe if you study administration doesn't mean you can't study business or you can't study some other things. Unless maybe you want to pursue if your passion is to become like a doctor, then yeah, you do have to have an advanced degree. That one is not an option.
Yeah.
But if you want to explore something else on the side, then yeah, like what Casie says, you don't really have to have it all figured out until you're at a certain age, of course. That's what she says. Or if, let's say, you guys want to try making a podcast like what I am doing, you can try it. You can click the link in the description box. There's a link from StreamYard. StreamYard is the software that I'm using in order to host the show. Okay, that was actually my last question. So, Casie, do you have anything you want to mention? We saw your Facebook. You are going for a hackathon, right? Tomorrow in India?
Yeah, so I leave tomorrow morning. There's about 8 of us from Singapore going to India to meet all of the AR creators in Asia region for a hackathon. So I'm really excited about that. And if anybody wants to reach out to me and talk to me about anything that I mentioned or have any questions, especially like about living in Singapore or doing business in this region, I'm really happy to help.
Northern or Southern India tomorrow?
So it's going to be Delhi. So we're going to the north.
Oh, lovely place, but I believe it's month of December. So when I was in India years ago, I was in I was in Delhi and I was in Rajasthan. So in the morning, the weather is hot, but it's not like it's not humid. So you don't really sweat much, but it's just hot. It's just uncomfortable. But in the middle of the night, it can be freezing. So just prepare for the weather.
Okay, I'll bring some sweaters.
All right. Okay, I actually just have one shout out now. It's Mr. Lawrence Ng. Mr. Lawrence Ng is actually my geography teacher back in middle school. So, hi, Mr. Ng, how are you? So, with that, that's the end of Global Citizens, episode 15. Thank you so much, Casie, for your time. Yeah.
Thank you.